Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we've got a really fascinating set of sources. We're looking at notes from the Austin Enlightenment Society meetup and also an Ethics Startup Nation workshop. And our mission today is pretty critical, wouldn't you say? We're not just talking about, abstract ethics in a philosophy class.
No, not at all. We're taking these big ideas, these values, and we're basically stress testing them, putting them right into crisis scenarios.
Exactly. How do they actually hold up when things get tough?
That's the core question. The material really pushed participants to move beyond just saying what they value and actually build a framework, and then immediately see if it breaks under pressure.
And what seemed to emerge based on these notes is this underlying tension, this kind of fundamental debate about how we progress, how character is built.
Absolutely. It boils down to really two competing philosophies.
Right, this core conflict. Do we need hardship, like forced on us to become strong? Or can we build strength intentionally?
Yeah, that's it. The notes frame it as the Crucible thesis versus the conscious Ascent thesis. Two very different ways of looking at character.
Okay, let's unpack the first one. The Crucible thesis, the pragmatist's view.
Right. This is the idea that real character, genuine resilience, it's forged in the fire of hardship you didn't choose. Like, life throws challenges at you, and surviving those challenges, those external pressures, is what makes you strong, what makes you trustworthy.
You hear this a lot, don't you? That easy times make people weak. There's a definite wariness of comfort in this view.
Exactly. It sees ease as potentially leading to decay. It's pretty skeptical about relying on inherent goodness, you could say.
Okay, so that's the Crucible. What's the alternative? The conscious ascent, the architect view.
Yeah, the architect. This perspective argues that character isn't just about enduring suffering. It's about conscious choice, deliberate effort, aspiration. You build it intentionally, ideally from a stable foundation where basic needs are met.
So reduce the unnecessary suffering to free people up.
Precisely. Reduce that systemic friction, the daily struggle, so people can actually pursue higher ideals. You know, what the Greeks called eudaimonia, human flourishing.
That definitely sounds more optimistic.
It is, and it's got historical roots. Think about things like the Roman virtues dignitas, industria, or even the chivalric code. These were all attempts to sort of engineer virtue, to create a chosen path towards excellence.
And this is where the source material gets, well, pretty futuristic, actually. The notes talk about taking this architect idea to its extreme technical conclusion.
Ah, yes. The cognitive prosthetic system, the patent idea.
Right. It sounds like something out of science fiction, but it's framed as a solution to what they call the say-do gap.
Which is just that gap between what we say we'll do, our intentions, and what actually happens, our actions. Think about all the waste that comes from that gap. Broken promises, inefficiency, loss of trust.
So this system, this cognitive prosthetic,
Yeah.
it aims to close that gap using technology.
That's the proposal. It's built on something called the unity principle, written as S, congruent symbol, P, congruent symbol, H, S-A-H.
Okay, wait. SPH, what does that actually mean in simple terms?
Okay, so S is semantics, the meaning, the intent. P is physical memory layout, how it's stored. H is hardware behavior, what the circuits actually do. The idea is to mathematically lock these three together. So your intention is mirrored perfectly, verifiably, all the way down to the hardware level.
Wow. So it's trying to guarantee follow-through technologically.
Essentially, yes. And because of this unity, the system claims it can measure trust in real time, like mathematically.
What's the formula that mentioned?
The formula is trust equals 1 AUOA. It calculates the deviation between the stated intention, SAY, and the actual execution as a fraction of the intention.
Okay. Bold. Reducing trust to a hardware calculation. But hang on, what about context? If I say I'll deliver a report, but then there's a power outage, the DO changes, but my integrity hasn't failed, right?
Right.
Reality intervened.
That's the huge question, and a point raised in the notes themselves. This formula seems very focused on eliminating human-caused deviations, negligence, broken promises, things like that. The things that do cause most trust breakdown.
Right, the avoidable stuff.
Exactly. And the promise, if this could work, is massive. They talk about hyper-efficiency, like 8.7 to 12.3 times improvement in how human systems perform just by eliminating that say-do friction, creating this perfectly stable launch pad for cognition.
A stable launch pad.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a lot to think about. But before we build hyper-efficient societies or even just ethical companies, the workshop stressed getting the basic language right. Values, morals, ethics. people use them interchangeably.
All the time. But they are different, and knowing the difference is crucial, especially when a crisis hits and you have to make hard choices.
So let's define them. First up, values.
Okay, values are basically your priorities. Personal or group priorities. They guide your direction when you face trade-offs. Are we optimizing for speed or safety? Team loyalty or, say, user empowerment? Values tell you which way you lean.
Got it. Priorities. What about morals?
Morals are more like lines in the sand. Your non-negotiables. These are principles about right and wrong that you hold on to, even if it means sacrificing a value. If your moral compass says never lie, you don't lie, even if telling the truth hurts your team's loyalty, which might be a value.
So morals trump values when they conflict.
For that individual or group, yes, they're foundational.
Okay. And the third one, ethics.
Ethics are more about shared frameworks, usually in a specific context, like professional or industry settings. Think medical ethics, legal ethics. They're designed to provide a common standard, to guide decisions in critical situations, and often override personal preference for the sake of a professional standard.
That makes sense. Let's make it concrete. The sources use a really good example, the Tiffany case study.
Yes, Tiffany. The product manager asked to implement the infinite scroll bar.
Right, which, as the notes point out, is known to kind of hijack our dopamine systems.
Sure.
It's designed to be addictive, almost like a slot machine.
So Tiffany's immediately in a tough spot. First, there's the value conflict. Her job values growth, hitting targets, team loyalty. But she might personally value user well-being, maybe responsible design.
That's the trade-off.
Then comes the moral conflict. Maybe she has a personal moral line against manipulating users or promoting addictive behavior. That's deeper than just a value preference.
And layered on top of that is the company's ethical framework, right?
Yeah.
Which probably says something like maximize growth within legal limits.
Exactly. So you see how values, morals, and ethics can pull someone in completely different directions. That creates enormous friction, that say-do gap, again, inside a person or a team.
It really highlights the complexity. And that complexity led the workshop participants to a fundamental philosophical problem. How do you ground morality? How do you say something is objectively good or bad without, resorting to religion or ending up in pure relativism where anything goes?
Yeah, the Hitler problem, as it's sometimes called.
Yeah.
If everything's subjective, how can you condemn anything universally? It's a huge challenge for secular ethics.
So what did the group land on? How did they establish a foundation?
They focused on identifying universal moral foundations. Things that, when you look across cultures, across history, across legal systems, seem almost universally agreed upon.
Like what? What made the cut?
Very few things, actually. The core ones were prohibitions against murder, prohibitions against theft, and the fundamental need for things like basic safety, security, bodily integrity. The real bedrock essentials for any society to function.
So not a long list, but a solid one.
Right. And the key insight wasn't just listing them, it was realizing that most disagreements aren't about these fundamentals. People rarely argue against safety, they argue about how to achieve it.
So the conflict is usually about implementation, not the core value itself.
Exactly. Think about security. Europe and America both value it, but their approaches to achieving it, especially regarding privacy versus surveillance, are vastly different. Same value, different implementation strategies.
Understanding that difference seems crucial for finding common ground. Now, you also brought in another layer, a philosophical point about unmitigated goods. What was that about?
This was about refining the toolkit further. The idea is that most virtues, most good qualities, can become vices if you take them too far. Too much courage becomes recklessness, too much honesty can become cruelty, too much focus on healthy eating can become orthorexia. They flip.
Right. Moderation in all things, as the saying goes.
But an unmitigated good is different. It's a quality or value that theoretically you can't have too much of. More of it is always better, or at least never harmful in itself.
Okay, interesting. Like what qualifies as an unmitigated good?
The examples discussed were things like discernment, deeper insight, better judgment, clearer understanding. You can't really have too much wisdom, right?
Good point.
Another was genuine good intentions, assuming they're paired with competence, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And a really critical one, especially for navigating these complex ethical landscapes, is the Greek concept of metis.
Metis. I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a kind of cunning intelligence, skillful navigation. It combines wisdom with practical cleverness, the ability to navigate tricky situations, complex systems, and conflicting values effectively. It's about finding that third way, the ingenious solution, when values seem like they're in a head-on collision.
So instead of just choosing between value A and value B, Metis is the skill to maybe find a way to honor both or find a better path altogether.
Precisely. It's the ingenuity that can dissolve the trade-off. So the implication for any ethical system or even just personal conduct is pretty profound. Don't interfere with these unmitigated goods. Protect discernment, cultivate good intentions, foster metis. They're like the essential engines for future progress and good decision-making.
Protect the engines. I like that. Okay, so armed with these definitions and concepts, the workshop participants then put them to the test. They created fictional nations.
Yeah, two of them.
Oh.
Thinky, which prioritized wholeness and safety as its core values, and Idealia, which focused on trust and accountability.
Thinky and Idealia. Got it. And then came the crises.
Right into the fire. Crisis 1. The false information dilemma. The scenario was, a really good worker rights law is gaining traction, popular support is surging, but that support is largely based on a viral claim that's completely false.
Oof, tough one. Do you correct the record and risk killing a beneficial law, or let the falsehood stand to achieve the good outcome?
Exactly. So what did Idealia, the nation built on trust and accountability, do?
I'm guessing they had to correct it.
They did. They prioritized long-term trust over the immediate win. But here's where the Metis maybe comes in. They didn't just issue a boring correction. They used humorous memes and engaging content to debunk the false claim while still arguing for the law on its actual merits.
Huh? Using memes for government corrections. Okay, that's clever. Risky, but true to their values.
Very risky, but they stuck to their guns. Now, Thinky, prioritizing wholeness, worker protection, and safety.
My guess is they let it slide for the greater good of the workers.
You got it. Pure pragmatism. They saw the worker protection law as the overriding value. The misinformation, a non-issue compared to securing worker rights and safety. They took no action to correct it. The ends justified the means for them.
Wow. Completely different responses flowing directly from those initial value choices. Okay, what was the next test?
Crisis 2. The economic crisis dilemma. A classic government nightmare. Need to cut the budget or raise taxes by 10%. But key constraint. You must protect the most vulnerable citizens.
All right, how did Thinky, wholeness safety, handle the cuts?
Thinky went for a hybrid approach. They cut spending on things deemed non-essential. The notes specifically mentioned celebrations, like public festivals, Christmas parties, that sort of thing. And for taxes, they targeted increases on discretionary spending and large, profitable corporations, trying to maintain core services while taxing non-essentials and those who could afford it most.
Spreading the burden but shielding the core. Makes sense for wholeness. What about Idealia? Trust accountability. Shared sacrifice seems likely here.
Exactly. Their cuts hit areas like military spending and significantly high-ranking government salaries. Leading by example, accountability from the top. Tax increases focused on sin taxes, alcohol, tobacco, and luxury goods.
Protecting the vulnerable.
They specifically expanded food stamp programs, but with a restriction. The money could only be used for actual food items, not cash, not other goods. Ensuring the aid directly met the intended need, aligning with their accountability principle.
Again, totally different, but logical paths based on their stated values. It really drives home the point from the workshop, doesn't it? Vague, warm, and fuzzy values sound nice, but they fall apart under pressure.
Absolutely. You need principles that are specific, scalable, and genuinely attainable. If your core value can't guide you through a 10% budget cut simulation, it's not a functional value.
Just words.
Just words. The big takeaways were really about the need for communication centrality, clear language, transparency, and this ability to integrate values. Not see them as constantly competing, forcing you to sacrifice one for another, but finding ways, perhaps using Metis, to weave them together.
Which brings us right back to where we started, that fundamental debate. Crucible versus conscious ascent. How is character really built? We've gone from ancient Greek ideas to futuristic patents and crisis simulations.
And the simulation itself, the workshop, it was explicitly designed, as the notes say, to be a dojo, not a crucible.
A dojo, a place for practice, for chosen challenge.
Yeah.
Not the unchosen suffering of the crucible.
Exactly. Which leads us to the final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. If strength and character come from hardship, is it better to wait for the world to impose that hardship, that forced awakening through suffering, kind of letting the environment do the filtering? Or should you actively choose the chosen awakening? Should you embrace the dojo model? Deliberately seek out structured, challenging experiences to proactively build your moral muscles, your resilience, your metis.
Dojo or crucible? How do you choose to build yourself?
What are the practical ways you could apply that choice dojo or crucible to how you approach challenges, big or small, in your own life?
A really powerful question to end on. Do you build the training ground or wait for the battlefield?
That's our time for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. Go forth and perhaps choose your awakening.